doctor is in, and I'm here by myself without my doc mode today. She may be coming in. She's doing a speech in LA, but I have the ultimate beautiful, brilliant, full, expert on fibroids and Black women, Tanika Gray, Valubrun, and she's here with us. I met her a few months ago because we were speaking at an event, and I'd heard of you like so many times over the years. I think maybe we met like years ago, but she is really the guru on fibroids.
Mm.
And when I met her, I asked her, well, do fibroids have anything to do with breast cancer? Because everything does, right?
Right.
And we discovered that, yes, it does. So I'm just going to let you tell your story. And we both have on our white dresses. She's the
Yeah.
founder and CEO of the White Dress Project. I've never worn this dress. I've had it for 3 years. So thank you for
Oh my goodness.
you
I love that.
to wear it in my house, but that's okay. That's okay.
I
That's okay.
love that you wore it today, though.
I did. I work for you. So tell us your story. Let's talk about this because it's a huge thing for Black women. When I started looking at the numbers, I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it absolutely is a huge thing for Black women and women in general. But thank you so much for having me, Ricky. Hi, everyone. I am Tanika Gray Valubrun. I am the founder of the White Dress Project, and we are a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to raising awareness of uterine fibroids. And this organization was really birthed out of my own personal story. I had suffered with the symptoms of fibroids since I was about 15 years old. Very heavy menstrual bleeding, frequent urination, never wore any white clothing because I was always so fearful of having an accident. And that spread to not only no white clothing, but no white sheets in my house, no light colored towels, no light colored car seats, nothing that could potentially be stained. And that's really how I lived my life, always conscious of what I wore or what was around me. And I also think that that had an impact on my social settings and the people I hung out with and the things that I did, because I was always so conscious of what was happening in my body and what my period was doing. So that started at like age 15, and I went on to, high school and
Can you
college.
stop for a second? Can you stop for a second? So,
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, I have so many things, but I do not have fibroids. So,
Mm.
what does it look like? So, if you have fibroids, you have heavy bleeding, you have cramps. Like, what are the symptoms, or what are the things that people are experiencing? Just so we understand that.
Yes, if you have symptomatic fibroids, some of the symptoms are heavy menstrual bleeding that sometimes can even lead to clotting. You have frequent urination because depending on where the fibroids are located in your uterus, it can lean on other organs, and your bladder being one of them. Bloating, because the same place that a baby grows is the same place that fibroids grow. So you often look like you're pregnant. And then there's the mental health component of all of this, which impacts so many chronic illnesses and disease states. But those are the main ones. You also are likely to have anemia, which is a low blood count because you are bleeding so heavily. I will say that not every person that has fibroids has all of these symptoms, but these symptoms are very, very common with a lot of people who do suffer with uterine fibroids.
So, when you're a teenager and you're getting, I didn't get my period till I was 15, really almost
Oh,
16,
wow.
really late bloomer, and my kids too, my daughters too.
Huh.
I don't know what that's about, but just I just remember like just the thought of it alone, the shame and all the embarrassment that goes with it. But then to
Exactly.
add this on top of it when you're a teenager, it's got to be horrible.
It was a lot. And I think that, I just left, it's ironic, I just left Spelman College. I had the opportunity today to talk to a group of students. And a lot of them said to me, I just thought it was normal. I just thought that that's how
Your
your
period's supposed
period
to be.
goes. And
Wow.
I was so happy that I was able to speak with them because it put the spark in their head that no, if something is impacting your quality of life, impacting your classes, your social settings, how you interact, So many of them talked about, oh, of course I missed class like 3 times out the month because of my period. But
Mm.
once again, I just thought that was normal. So it is a lot having to deal with it because you're coming into your own, you're deciding what you want to do with your life. So for me, it was something that I definitely had to manage and something that had an impact on my mental health.
Well, was it in your family? Did your mom know what it was and stuff? Did your mom have it too? Like, could anybody explain it to you?
Yeah, so my mom had fibroids. She lost 2 sets of twins to fibroids. I'm an only child. So,
Wow. Before
um,
you? Before you?
yes, she lost a set before me. Thought she couldn't have any children, adopted my cousin, like adoption within the family, and then got pregnant with me, almost lost me as well, she tells me, and after me, lost a set of twins.
Wow.
So
Wow.
the good thing for me is that I was familiar with fibroids. I knew what they were because my mother shared that story with me. But ironically, when I started to have these symptoms during my teen years, I I don't know, I didn't put two and two together, and neither did my mom. So we never thought like, no, fibroids like now,
Right.
like no, no way.
Right.
And so I also normalized my symptoms. I also thought, well, this is just, how my period goes. And just really leaned into like, this is a woman's journey. This is just how it is. And it's not. If nobody else gets anything from this, I want people to understand that if something is impacting your quality of life and impacting how you interact in social settings, how you make decisions around something as simple as clothing, how you interact at work, it is impacting your quality of life and you should get it checked out.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Yeah.
So this is your 10th year. You're celebrating your 10th anniversary, right?
Yes.
This weekend in DC,
Hmm.
right?
Yes, I'm so excited about it because I think about all that I have been through in terms of going through the diagnosis of fibroids, the multiple blood transfusions, the multiple missed days at school, at work, and just how it's impacted my entire life. And to see that I've had 3 surgeries for the removal of fibroids, which is called a myomectomy, and to know that I turned all of that pain, all of that, those challenging moments into a movement, I'm really, really proud of that. And you can resonate with that, Ricky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking the personal
Pain,
story, the
your pain, your pain.
exactly. The authenticity of that, I think, is really what drives our organization. I'm sure it's what drives
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
Just being authentic because people resonate with authentic stories and people understand and don't want to feel alone. So when you're authentic and you can share your story, then I really think that that has lended itself to the success of our organization. Because
Mm.
we know, like nonprofits,
Yeah.
unfortunately, don't last a long time, right?
You have to work really hard to make them last. But I think when you have a
Exactly.
clear purpose and you're delivering a value to
Hmm.
the community, then, I mean, I wish there wasn't a need for us to be gone. I mean, if you think
Right.
about it, I wish people didn't need us, but they do, and you're doing such great work. So tell me what people can do. Like if you have fibroids, what are the treatments? And then tell me some stories, you know what I mean? Like how are you delivering this message to people that helps them?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing that we promote at our organization is how to be your own best health advocate.
I
I,
know, right? Tell me about it. Why do we have to do that? Black
I,
women, hello, for
I
everything.
know.
That's what we do with breast cancer, Tanika. Like
Yeah.
tell people, how to talk to their doctor, how to demand the care they deserve. But it's really unfortunate. It's so disappointing that that we have to stand up for ourselves to get care, right?
It is disappointing and it's challenging because, especially we've been taught that our doctors are the people who we're able to count on, right? And able to give us sound advice. And a lot of times they definitely are, but a lot of times they can be dismissive. There's still, I think we don't talk enough about medical gaslighting, dismissive behavior by our physicians. And a lot of times I think from their vantage point, they've heard it before. They don't want to alarm patients. They don't want to, do anything that's going to be overreactive. So I say if we can't control what happens necessarily in medical school, in residency and fellowship, then we have to go in as patients armed with information, not only about our bodies, but what is the latest research?
Right.
Why do Black women disproportionately get uterine fibroids? We have to be armed with that information. And to your point, it is unfortunate, right? Why should we have to be the ones that are always so prepared, always
Right.
going in so
Right.
strong, always, and it can be quite frustrating. But at the end of the day, I always say nobody's going to care about your body the way you do.
And nobody's gonna know your body the way that you do.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
especially when you're young and you're dealing with this in your
Right.
teens and 20s. I know, so many young women get dismissed by doctors for breast cancer. Oh, come back
Hmm.
in 6 months. It's just a cyst. Don't worry, you're too young. And we just had a 23-year-old die a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, my
She was
goodness.
dismissed by her doctor because she was young, God forbid. Like, and we see it so often. But even all Black women, we all have stories about whether, when the doctor didn't take us seriously, or what do you mean
Hmm.
pain drugs? Or what do you mean when,
Hmm.
what I mean when you need to take a leave of absence from your job? Like, what do you need that for? And
Right.
so it's really sad that we have to do it, but we do. We just have to,
Yeah, we
and we have to
do.
tell them, like, that's what we do. That we
Yeah, it is what we do. And to your point, it's so disheartening that we're questioned, that we're asked multiple times about the same thing, that our integrity is questioned. And it happens so often. There was this thought that, like, oh, these are like old school doctors. No, we hear
no,
stories like
no,
this every single day. Like I just said, I just came from Spelman College, and a young lady told me that she felt like her periods had just been increasingly getting worse. And she's starting to miss class, she's starting to have clots. And she told me that she went and told her doctor. Well, she started with the school nurse, and the school nurse said, okay, well, maybe you should see a primary. And she said to me, she told the primary, and the primary said, just to take some over the counter medicine for the pain. And she asked me, she was like, do you think I'm too young to go to the gynecologist? And all my
yeah, like,
thoughts
oh
came.
my God, right?
Right, exactly, exactly. Like all the thoughts were just like, no, you're not too young,
Oh my,
But I think we also have this thought about certain doctors only at certain ages, and she said to me, I'm not having sex yet, so I don't think it's time for me to go.
oh my God.
And I was like,
Where was her mother? You know what I mean?
right.
But we hear that too,
Yeah.
that if it's not about birth control, then that's their reason to go. And then they're going to Planned Parenthood or doing other things, but because they don't want to tell their mamas that they
Mm-hmm.
control. But even we have an HBCU internship program. We've had set many interns from Spelman. Actually, our first intern went to Spelman. She's now at Vanderbilt Medical School. Really proud of her. And
Oh, great.
but we have them, we basically ask them to have a conversation with their mom or their grandma. And I think we've now had 74 interns, and in the past 4 years, and all except for 5 of them had never had a conversation with their moms about boobs.
Wow.
And the 5 that did had breast cancer in the family,
Wow.
but they had never talked to their moms about it, and their moms never talked to them. And so about
Right.
check your breasts or whatever. So I think probably if the mom didn't have her own personal experience,
Mm-hmm.
she's not talking to her kid about it. And I think it's the same thing here, I guess, right? Even with fibroids, if you don't have the problem, you're not going to bring it up. And we need to be telling these kids this stuff way before
Oh,
they,
absolutely.
right?
And and to your point, Ricky, I feel like the conversation just has to be elevated, right? Like
Yes,
we need to advance the conversation to, do you know what your fallopian tubes are and their function? Do you know that you can get cysts? Do you know what PCOS is? Do you know what endometriosis is? Do you know what adenomyosis is? We need to evolve the reproductive health conversation to more than you got your period, now you can get pregnant, don't get pregnant.
right,
You know what
right,
I mean?
right.
Because we have to trust that our young girls are educated and they are aware of what is happening, and it is more than just pregnancy.
It is. And it's funny too, because I always talk about breast cancer the reason why people don't hear doctors and stuff is because they can't spell the words. Like those
Hmm.
words you said, I don't know what half that stuff is, but like,
Right.
so break it down, talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old so I get it. What are those things? And I think that's some of the work that you're doing that's so great and healthy that, like talk to them on their turf in their, meet them where they are. Because we know like we're so prideful, Black women. We're so
Hmm.
prideful. And if you hear a word you don't understand, you let it go because you don't want to be embarrassed and ask what it means, So I think that how you communicate this stuff is so important to make people feel comfortable that we need to talk about this. It is not something you used to keep a secret. And then the whole secret thing, don't even get me started on that,
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on
right?
secret stigmas, what we
Right,
consider taboo. Yeah,
right,
it's
right.
alarming.
And mothers have it and don't tell their daughters. And that's just despicable.
Yeah, we hear that story so many times in our community that, my mother said to me, honey, you'll be okay when I'm rolling into the operating room because, I had this surgery, so don't worry. And you're like, Mom,
Like,
like
what?
now, all right, now's the time you're telling me. So we also have to um have this conversation more so that we feel more comfortable, because the thing
Yeah.
is, once we start talking about it, everybody raises their hand.
Right. Everybody has a story. Same with breast cancer.
Exactly.
Everybody, if it's not in your family, it's somebody you know. Everybody.
Exactly. And I feel like this conversation can even grow to our young men and our the males in our life, because at the end of the day, whether you have this or not, you know someone who does.
Yes. Right.
So you can either be an advocate, an ally, a helpmate, a part of the tribe, because the impact and the numbers on how many people fibroids impacts, someone. I'm sure of it.
Yes. Yes. I know I have 2 cousins who had surgery. Um, one of them had kids and she was in her 40s. The other one
Mm,
wasn't able to.
mm,
But the pain was just unbearable. So
yeah.
Tanika, tell me what you do. So if you feel like you have symptoms and no one's talked to you, or what are the treatments? Like what can you do? And at what age and all can you just tell me like what happens?
Yeah, so when you start to suspect that anything could be going on regarding your period, just your reproductive health overall, you start to get ovarian cysts more often, things like that. The first sort of things that you can do as it pertains to fibroids is really get a comprehensive woman's exam.
Okay.
And
Go to
that
the gynae. Go to the gynae.
Exactly. Go to the gynecologist. And once you are diagnosed with fibroids, one of the most important things that you can figure out very early on is where are they located? Because where they're located really helps you to determine your treatment plan and your options. You also should become really clear about whether you want to be a mother or not, because fibroids can have an impact on fertility. It's important to figure out where they're located, what are your symptoms, how are your symptoms impacting your quality of life, and then all of those, once you have those answers, all of those things helps to determine what the best treatment option is. And there are a host of treatment options. There are Surgical treatment options, obviously, the surgical removal of your uterus altogether, which is the foolproof guarantee that fibroids never comes back, is a hysterectomy. And then you have a myomectomy, which is what I've had 3 times, which is where they go in either through like a cesarean cut or laparoscopically and remove the fibroids that way. There's also ablation, which is the UFE procedure. And I wish the doctor was here because, you know,
Yes,
that way we
I know.
exactly, that way I can make sure I don't get these wrong. But yeah, those 3 are the main ones that are currently used for fibroid treatment. So myomectomy, hysterectomy, and what they call uterine fibroid embolization. There are also a host of oral medicines that you can take that are shown to shrink fibroid growth. So those studies are coming out now, and also what supplements can be taken to help reduce fibroid size as well,
Got it.
which include a vitamin D and green tea extract, which
Mm.
just came out, I believe it was last year, out of University of Chicago with Dr. Al-Hindi.
Well, thank
So
you.
that's why it's so important to make sure that we're keeping up on research as well, because a lot of times, you know, does the doctor know this already? But as the patient, if you are armed with this information, then you can go and present this to your doctor
Right.
and say, you know, what is the basis on this? What are your thoughts on this literature, et cetera?
Yeah, what works for me? What can work for me, right?
Absolutely. And also what works for me, but also what aids in what I want my outcome to be. You know,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a mother. So my treatment options and goals have to kind of live around that central goal.
So when you say you had 3 myomectomies, is it because they grew back?
So there are theories around, did they grow back? Were they never,
They
were
never
all of
removed.
them exactly, were they not all removed? And, you know, every time I've had one of these surgeries, I want to believe, obviously, what the doctor has told me. But the truth is that you're not awake, right? You don't know.
Right, right, right.
So there are thoughts that, you know, very, very small fibroids
Yep.
sometimes are undetectable, and they can't be removed in surgery, or they're not seen, they're missed.
Right.
So then the thought is that potentially those grow. But all all I know is that I've had 3 surgeries, 3 myomectomies since 2013. My first one in 2013, I had 27 fibroids removed.
Oh my God.
5 years later, in 2018, I had another 5, but there were a group of fibroids that were behind my bladder. And I remember for my second surgery telling my physician, don't do anything that's going to mess up my uterus. And so in her mind, going in and not being able to get the ones behind the bladder were the best course of action, because, you know, if she had to take down my bladder, potentially more scarring, etc. And she knew my complete desire to be a mother.
Mhm.
So she didn't go any further than the one she could see before getting to my bladder. So in 2023, August of 2023, she told me what it was, you know, in 2018. And in 2023, we got general surgery involved and went in and took the ones behind the bladder. So my bladder had to be taken down, which is a whole extensive portion of surgery, and we got 13. So
13.
that's a lot of fibroids.
That's a lot. So they're not necessarily in your uterus. They're in your abdomen.
Well, they grow in and around your uterus.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So
so
it could affect all these other organs and stuff.
exactly. It can impact
Wow.
other organs. Exactly. And very similar to when you're pregnant and a baby
Yeah.
grows, and a baby can, you know, because of the dissension of the uterus, then it can
Right.
impact other
Other
organs.
organs here, or you could have an ectopic pregnancy or whatever.
Right.
Interesting. So, and thank you for explaining because I don't really know a lot about this, but and I want our audience to hear it. But I mean, it sounds like how cancer grows. Like
Mm.
I know, we kind of describe cancer surgery sometimes as you have a bowl of Rice Krispies and it's like filled up to the top. You pour the milk and they start to overflow, and they
Mm.
sort of fall out of the bowl, right? And you clean them up. You clean up and you think you got everything, but that one little Rice Krispie shot behind the refrigerator.
Yeah.
10 years later, you
Yeah.
got cancer again. So I'm sure that's kind of a similar, you
Yeah,
know,
we have a similar analogy in the fibroid world. It's like a stalk of grapes, right? So
okay.
you pick the grape, but there's that one little piece that's left on the vine, and that potentially can grow, right? So it's like that, just that little piece that you
Little
can't
piece.
catch, and it can grow. Yeah,
Yeah, or you missed that one. Yeah, yeah.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, gosh, gosh. All right. So I can get a myomectomy. I can get surgery. I can get my uterus removed, which we don't want to have happen if you want to.
Right. No. And the thing about a hysterectomy is that a lot of times the literature shows that Black women are often offered a hysterectomy. And that's why we do a lot of the work that we do, because while we're not physicians, um, we really advocate for getting a second and third opinion, because a hysterectomy should not be the first line of your
Yeah,
options when it comes on to
that shouldn't be
treating.
your that should be like a last resort. It shouldn't be something,
Exactly,
right? And
it
that's
should
like
be a
probably an easy way out for a doctor. Well, let me just rip it all out.
exactly, that should definitely be a last resort. And I know there are some physicians, or all physicians, I would venture to say, would say that there are definitely cases where a hysterectomy is absolutely necessary for medical
Right, for your
intervention.
health. Yeah.
Exactly. But that, I would argue, is not the majority of cases, especially when it comes on to fibroids. So it's important for us to know that there are options out there and explore all of those options.
And give you options for God's sakes. You know what I mean?
Well, well, that part.
Yeah, what a concept to just to give you options for your body and for your situation. So if you do get a hysterectomy, so you take your uterus out, can you still get fibroids again if they're growing in other places? Or
No, so fibroids are usually concentrated to the uterus.
they're sort of fed
So
by the uterus. They're sort of, yeah. So when your uterus goes, they go.
yes.
So
I have personally, and once again, I'm not a doctor, but I have personally never heard of fibroids growing anywhere else in the body. There is something called fibrocystic breast
yes,
tissue,
yes,
right? And I actually, I'm not sure if there's correlation. It may be the same like tissue group.
right.
Um, but yes, I've never heard of uterine or fibroids growing outside of the uterus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And fibrocystic breast tissue is different from breast cancer. It could be
Mm.
totally harmless, but let's talk about that.
Yeah, but you totally harmless. But I remember I had a mammogram. I've been getting mammograms since I was about 24, because I had fibrocystic breast tissue.
Um,
And the first couple of times they biopsied it because they were concerned. And so even though it's different, it's the same way we say fibroids aren't
yeah.
cancers. There's always that,
Yeah.
1%.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm
so
looking it up.
at the
This is when I
time, it
need
was
my mom.
alarming.
This is when I need Mo because she wouldn't be able to answer that for me, but I'm looking it up. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about the link to other diseases. Maybe start with cancer, but um, um, are you more likely to get uterine cancer from if you have fibroids?
So I don't, there is no, and I am not completely sure about this, but there is no link between uterine cancer necessarily and uterine fibroids.
Okay.
Mhm. So the cervical cancer either, and uterine cancer. none of those, as far as I know, are linked to uterine fibroids.
Okay. But that is linked to breast cancer more, and I
Right,
couldn't find a number, but if you have fibroids, you're more likely to get breast cancer as
right.
a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just take it from all sides as Black women.
We do, don't we? And
Yeah,
I feel, I don't know, sometimes I feel like there's so much within our health sphere to combat.
right,
And I do appreciate conversations like this because I think it's helpful. You know, I keep saying I'm not a doctor. I'm just a patient advocate who continues to share my story because I do believe that sharing my story impacts someone
yeah,
and it resonates with somebody, and
yeah,
it also gives other people a license and inspiration and the empowered feeling that sometimes you need to tell your story. So that's why I do it. And I think that the more that we have these conversations and understand that there is so much complexity within our bodies, and we
right.
have to take own of what's happening within our bodies, the better off that we are. So yeah, I that was a tangent, but
Yeah.
it was,
You said earlier that you started getting mammograms early. Why?
yeah.
Because of the fibroids?
I started getting mammograms early because I had fibrocystic breast tissue.
Okay, got it. All right.
Yeah, so they biopsied it. And for me, that was even very scary because I was trying to figure
Yeah.
out, why my periods were so heavy, why I was always anemic. By that time, I had had 2 or 3 blood transfusions already. So it was like another thing that was being
Yeah,
added.
yeah, yeah. And
And
so, is there a connection between fibrocystic breast and fibroids?
so I wouldn't be surprised if there was, because I believe that it's the same.
Same kind of tissue.
Exactly. It's the same type of tissue. So it would not surprise me at all. And I'm actually going to write that down to see if we can do some research on that.
Yeah, and I'll ask a couple docs about that too, because maybe there is a connection, and
Maybe there is a connection. And
yeah,
I don't want to sound ignorant to any of this. So that's why I'm not saying anything definitively. But I also think a part of the problem is that the research dollars aren't there to
they're not.
support a lot of this, right? So
Oh,
it's not like I'm just
right, right, right. No,
I'm
no,
not a
no.
doctor. So there are a lot of things that I don't know. But I do know my personal story, right? And I know what I've researched and I know what I've tried to find information on. So it even speaks to where we are when it comes on to advancing women's healthcare and women's healthcare research, right? There are so many of these things that we don't know. And why do many of these things impact disproportionately the Black community?
Right, right. And
So
we're
a
doing
lot of
the
these
same
things,
thing.
it's like, I'm not sure, maybe, um, and a lot of it is because the research just isn't there to show.
We don't know. And the
We
same
don't
thing,
know, right?
thing in breast cancer, Tanika, that
Yeah.
there's so many questions. And and I kind of labeled a Black breast cancer a few years ago because I wanted to say, okay, our breast cancer is different. So what are y'all doing about it? What do we know about it? And the lack of data is frightening, that we think that
Mm-hmm.
we don't know. And every day there's a new thing we uncovered. I said, well, why don't we know that? I mean, we don't know why Black women under 35 get breast cancer at twice the rate and die at 3 times the rate. We don't know why. We don't know
Mm-hmm.
why Black women are getting triple negative breast cancer at 3 times the rate of white women.
Mm.
We don't know. We don't know why, and why our mortality rates are so high. And it's really because
Right,
the drugs aren't working for us because they were never tested on our bodies.
right,
So,
right,
I'm sure that applies to fibroids. The medication that you're taking, was it designed for Black women? Was it tested on Black women? Are Black fibroids different from white fibroids? Why are we getting them more prevalently, right? All of those things need to be researched, and there aren't dollars to do it, and there's no one to motivated to go figure this stuff out. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing with Black women, is just saying, hold on, wait a minute, what does this mean? What does this look like? Why is it
Yes.
happening? And who's gonna figure it out? Like, and, I'm like, the last one, the first one to say, hold on, what are you doing? And
Mhm.
frankly, everybody in our ecosystem should be accountable for what we're seeing and the numbers that we're seeing. And doctors, researchers, pharma, everybody needs to play a role here to say, why are these things happening to us? And I think
Absolutely.
similar with fibroids, like who's doing that work to understand it? Because maybe there could be a better drug path for us. Maybe there could be a different surgery. Maybe there could be a different path to, even to fertility for Black women that we don't know yet, right? Because no one's doing that work.
Absolutely. And I think that, we have to think about the value that we're placing on Black women's health,
Yeah,
and it's low.
it's low.
And I don't want us as a community to adopt that mindset.
Right.
So that's why I'm like, well, okay, if they're not doing it, we got to do it.
We got to do it. We
You
got to
have
do
to
it
be the
ourselves.
exactly. You
We
have
gotta
to
do
be
it
the
ourselves.
advocate for yourself.
Yeah,
Until, organizations like yours, like mine, we're shouting from the rooftops.
right.
But how long do these things take? So in the meantime, in between time, here is some information that you can use to advocate for yourself, because a lot of times we try to show in our work that your story is your power.
Yes, it
And
is.
while
I agree. Same with breast
exactly,
cancer. Your story is your power. And
yeah.
and and frankly, we have too many stories. Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, there's an abundance of stories. So we all just have to, share them and tell them. And we find that our pharma partners, they thrive on the stories, thank God. And we've just been able to like, elevate that and escalate that to the extent that we can to get more attention on our stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, at White Dress, we believe stories are queen, like
Yeah.
there are so many stories, but at the same time, it's the stories that really give us hope, because the
Yeah.
stories aren't always necessarily in the research, right? And they're not in government and legislative settings. And that's what we're trying to infiltrate. We're trying to show that listen, our stories can be used as data. Our stories
Right.
are powerful to influence research and to influence how clinical trials are being done, et cetera. Um, so for us, we're always empowering patients to share their stories because it is what moves the needle forward. And as much as, people may think, oh, nobody wants to hear my story, or I see this thing in our community where we kind of compare stories. So, well, oh, mine's not as dramatic as hers, or I only had 10
Right.
fibroids removed. I didn't have 20. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
No, no,
Let's
no.
not do that.
Right.
Right? Let's not do that. It's all of our stories matter, and all of our stories are important to the grand scheme of making these conditions considered public health issues. I always say fibroids is a public health issue,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So we have to continue to share our stories in whatever capacity that we are, because all of us can't be doctors, all of us can't be researchers, but we have to know that our stories can influence those things.
Right. And then when you start to connect the dots, that these things are all
Right.
some connection to breast cancer or some connection to, other things and anemia, whatever, then you sort of
Yes,
can
absolutely,
share more
anemia.
stories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, gosh, gosh. Such a, horrible thing for us.
It is.
Let's
But we
talk
have
about
each other, right? And I
we have
think,
each other and that's
yes.
what we have a community, and that's so awesome that you're building this great community. But before we
Mhm.
go there, let's talk about mental health.
Yes.
Because that's something to me, mental illness is something you need to treat when you're on chemo. Like if you have breast cancer, part of your treatment plan has to be something, whether it's therapy or taking something to help you cope with this madness.
Yes.
And
I'm
I
so glad you brought that up, Ricky, because I think we underestimate that a lot. We underestimate the impact of going through any chronic illness,
Yeah,
any
chronic
ill,
illness.
right. And thinking, not thinking enough about how that impacts our mental health, how that impacts how our social interactions, how that impacts us at work. And I think that when I think about my personal story and the mental health um, challenges that I have, when I think about, the desire to be a mother, feeling like I'm missing out on things socially, feeling like I'm not excelling at work fast enough because of these, benign tumors, um, it really can get you to a place of real depression. Like I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like I, went through it because one of the reasons, which is one of the reasons I started the organization, is just that feeling of loneliness, right? And
mm,
I don't know if we talk about loneliness enough, because what I saw happen when I started the organization with the power of storytelling, it just felt like somebody wanted to hear that somebody else knew exactly what they were
right,
going through.
right, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is the whole purpose of our community. Like I call it blessedy love. I call it
I
blessedy
love
love,
that.
that that you don't have to talk, you don't have to explain it, you don't get all the questions, that it's a sort of unconditional love with other women that share the same experience. And
Yeah,
I don't know how I would have made it without it. And
yeah,
and I know, like, I had so many friends who loved me and took care of me and did all the things for me. But it was when I met other women who had triple negative, like, oh my God, I'm home. I'm in my place,
yeah.
right?
Because they get you,
They
you
get
know?
you. They get you. And it's so important just to have that love around you where you don't have to explain how you feel. You
Right.
just know it. Like, that was one of the worst questions I get. Well, how do you feel today, Ricky? I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like I got tired of saying that, right?
Yeah.
How do you think I feel? How would you feel if somebody told you you're gonna die, right?
Yeah.
You're taking these drugs, right? So I think that the community is really important. And I love what you're doing. So tell me about your community and what you're doing in the community. And
Oh my goodness. I could talk about our community all day long,
I
but
know.
they're really why I do this,
Yeah, it
because
drives you, right?
It does. It really
Yeah,
does. Because
yeah,
Ricky,
yeah.
this work is not for the faint of heart
Not for the faint of heart. It
at
is not
all.
for the faint of heart. I sometimes
And
like I just want to be like, I wake up in the morning, okay, well, I know I'm not in my bed, so where am I?
exactly,
Right.
exactly. So I am so in love with our community because we get it. We understand each other. We support each other. No, we don't feel like wearing white every day. Like,
Right, right.
just
Tell me
because
about it.
now, right, just because now we have the organization and we say we're white, okay, who cares? Like, I don't feel like doing it because I'm still bleeding profusely.
Right, right,
So we understand all that and we know that it's not easy, but we do it anyway to feel that glimmer of hope, to
right,
have that
right,
inspiration, to know that, one day it's not impossible to find a cure for this. It's not impossible to get the research to figure out why this disproportionately impacts Black women. Why do white women get it at 70%? Why do Hispanic and and other women get it at higher rates,
right,
right? Like it's not impossible. We can get to that.
right.
So
With the
my
right focus, with the right money, with the right resources, right
exactly.
intent, the right intent.
The right intent. I love that. And it's so true. We don't have the right intention around it with uh people who can make those decisions. And
Yeah.
maybe we're not voting those people in either. Like that's a whole
Hello.
other conversation, right?
That's a whole nother conversation. We're gonna do that show soon. Come back and talk,
Good.
right? Good for your health.
But the community is really, because at the end of the day, no one wants to feel alone. No one wants to feel like they're the only one, and no one wants to feel like they constantly have to explain, because then the person you're explaining to doesn't get it.
Right.
And the best intentioned friends and family members sometimes cannot hit the mark, right?
Yeah, they just don't know. They don't know
They
what to
just
ask
don't
them. They
know,
don't know how to
right?
describe it. They don't.
We
Yeah,
often do a webinar about how to serve as an ally
yeah,
for someone who's dealing with
be a
fibroids.
caregiver. Yeah,
Yeah. And a lot of times people are leery of getting help because they say it's not cancer, right? And it's not something that you'll necessarily die from. But I always say that while cancer is horrible, fibroids are horrible too.
yeah.
And we none of us should be going through this alone.
None
So
of us are going for this. We say nobody fights alone is one of our, you know, taglines, and we work with a triple negative breast cancer. Nobody fights alone. You cannot fight alone.
right,
There's support.
right. So that goes back to the importance of community. And when we get together, like this weekend, going to DC in the morning, and I'm just looking forward to being in a room of people who get me, who
Yeah,
understand,
right,
who, when I get up there and I say, today was not the day for the white dress.
right, right,
Like,
right, right.
it just wasn't it. And
Wasn't it?
they start
Right,
clapping and
right,
all
right.
the things, right? I feel like that's so important
Yeah,
and necessary
yeah,
um, for our mental health and just for the journey that we go on with these chronic illnesses.
yeah, yeah. No, it's same with breast cancer. You know, I like to say that we go where Black women live, work, play, pray, and slay. And
Mm-hmm.
and we find that we do better when we don't go to health fairs.
Mm,
I feel like when we go to health fairs, we're preaching to the choir,
mm-hmm.
and they're getting screened already for breast cancer. They're doing the things. We go to hair shows. We go to
Mm.
churches. We go to community events. We go to all the Divine Nine events. We do all these other things. So we catch people off guard when they're
Yes.
not thinking about it, and then like, oh yeah, yeah, I didn't check my breast. Oh my gosh, So we've been doing a lot of scanning and stuff with people. So why we're going to Martha's Vineyard, we talked about it because they're not going to be thinking about health. They're going to be thinking about partying and hanging out and
Right. Hanging out.
socializing. And so, but that's where, you know what? So make it a tradition. Like you make the trip a tradition. You bring your family. You rent a house, pay a load of money. You pay a load of money to get there. So get your breast screen.
Yeah.
Their screen and breast.
I I love that thought because we kind of operate the same way with our organization. Like what are all the industries that we can infiltrate? And
Yeah,
I don't have any limitations in my mind on that
yeah.
because we're women.
We're
So
women. We're
we're
everywhere.
everywhere.
We're
Right.
doing everything. We're in grocery stores,
Exactly.
like, and yeah, we're trying to find women and meet them where they are. You,
Yeah. So
you,
we are at, a Divine Nine step show. Of course
yeah,
we are.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
are at a concert.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
are at a fashion show.
Yes,
And
us
I
too.
think that has, the name
Yeah,
of our organization has helped
yes.
kind of catapult that conversation
Such
because
a great name. Such a great name. I love it.
thank you. A lot of times, people are like, oh, is this about wedding dresses?
Right, 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 right.
Like, no, no, no. But while you're here.
Like, while you're here, let's talk about it. And it is about wedding dresses
Exactly.
because you may be on your period. Or
Right,
what does
right.
that look like? And that's a whole episode in itself, like, how it impacts you, right?
Absolutely. How
So
it impacts
we
you.
do have a couple questions here from the.
Oh, awesome.
One of them is this is from Sunrise is her name. Are you familiar with the clinical studies through Black Women's Health Study? I don't know about that. Do you know about that?
So I'm not familiar with Black Women's Health Study, but I am familiar with Black Women's Health Imperative.
Yes, Linda Blount. We work with
Oh,
her.
yes, Linda is
Phenomenal.
so great and has done so much with Black Women's Health Imperative as
Yep.
the president. We're actually doing our first event tomorrow with them in DC to kick off our empowerment
Great, great,
experience.
great, great.
So if you guys haven't heard about Black Women's Health Imperative, please go to BWHI. I think it's bwhi.org.
It is.
And
It
they're
is.
on
Yep,
Instagram as
yep,
BWHI as well.
yep.
But just to address the thought around clinical trials and the importance of those, like obviously because of the historical context in the Black community around clinical trials, there is some trepidation in our community about participating in them.
Well, that's what we
Right.
talk about, our When We Trial movement. And, we did a big research study. We talked to 300 blesties a few years ago to understand why are they afraid? What is the fear? And people kind of want to blame it on the Henrietta Lack stuff and the history of
Right.
bad stuff. But what we're finding, especially with younger women, that it's really fear of the unknown. They don't
Yeah.
understand what a clinical trial is. And I know, I'm not sure if this is similar in fibroids, but in breast cancer and cancer, there is no sugar pill. There is no
Mm.
placebo drug. You're going to get
Mhm.
drug, you're going to get standard of care, and then maybe another drug on top of it, or that could be better. And so
Mhm.
you're not going to be left out to dry and die because you've got a sugar pill. And so once we sort of deal with that fear and explain that to people in words they can spell from the voice of trust, I understand that now. So we are When We Trial, we've now signed up on 18,500 Black women for clinical trial portals.
Oh, that's amazing.
But it's because,
Congratulations.
thank you, it's because we're talking about it in common language and on the show.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time, but I think it applies to everything. And I think I don't know about the clinical trials for fibroid drugs, but you should check and see, like, if there is a placebo, what does that really mean for the patient? How are you impacted?
Mhm.
Because in cancer, that is not the case. You're gonna get something. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And also, we know that because we don't have a lot of data about Black women, a clinical trial is your best path, especially if you're under 35. It's your
Oh,
best.
absolutely.
And I'm not a
We,
doctor either. I just play on Facebook. But,
yeah,
but it is your best path. It's the best science we have. Why not take advantage of it?
yeah. And both of us keep saying we're not doctors.
I know, I know.
Right? But because
Yeah,
people get up in arms about stuff like that. But so we're not doctors, but I do think that our personal experience is important and
yeah,
we can share that. And even if it gets you thinking
right,
to do your own research or to ask the doctor,
right.
that
We
we
do.
would have done our job.
We
But
would have.
yes, I do believe that organizations like Black Women's Health Imperative, like our organizations, they're healthy resources.
Yeah,
And I do think that there is fear of the unknown when it comes on to clinical trials
yeah.
and what are they going to do with my blood?
Right, right.
What are
What's
they
gonna
going to do?
happen?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
But the
what are the
fact of the
results of it, right? What are the results? Like, we go in this black hole and you don't really know what happened.
Exactly. And the other thing that we hear about why people choose not to participate in clinical trials is I need a solution right now. This 3 to 5 years that you want me to enroll in is not helpful.
Not helping me.
Um, so, maybe researchers can think of, what are some faster, because if people are seeking these things out, usually willing to participate, then they want some type of feedback a little bit earlier. And obviously, I know that
Yeah,
that's not always possible, but I just wanted to share outside of like the historical context,
yeah,
outside of they don't know what's going to happen with, their information. People are just like, I also can't wait. I also
can't
don't
wait.
want to
I need it
do it
now.
for so those are some of the limitations, but I don't think those limitations should hinder us from
Yeah, or
participation.
maybe they get you in a trial to do XYZ, but in the meantime, they give you a solution where you can do
Right,
at the same
right,
time, so you're not suffering. But
exactly.
until we have more women in trials and more Black women,
Completely agree.
we're not gonna fix it. And that's why
Right.
as we have to take control of our health and take control and tell the doctor what to do, we also need to advance the science and work together to do that, because it's on us. It's on us, girlfriend. It's on us,
Me
right?
and you.
It's on us, and we gotta do it. And
Right.
we're gonna do everything we can to get to fix the election, as Black women always do. We're gonna make sure everybody in our house has everything they need, as Black women do. So, we got to put our big girl panties on and step up to the plate and do the work.
Yep. And we are doing the work and we'll continue to
Yeah,
do the
we'll
work.
continue. Yeah,
Right. And encourage others to do the work.
encourage the others to do the work and get people fired up. But I think, when we think about all the things that are affecting our health, I think the worst thing for me, at least, and when I talk to blessees, is being out of control of your body.
Yeah.
Like, why is my body doing this to me? Why is it failing me? Like, what is wrong with my body? Like, and that feeling, because we're all control freaks,
Mhm.
we're all helicopter moms and control freaks. Like, I want to do it this way. This is how I want done. But and so we have to, like, when you lose control of that, that's when you start having depression. And
Mhm.
like, how can this help me? And that's why our community is so important, to be able to lift each other up and talk about, and try to get back some of that control.
Right.
Things that work for somebody else, maybe it'll work for me. But it's the hardest part for me. Like, I want to be in control of my body. I want to know what's happening. And
Right.
if we can, information, that's what gives you control.
You can control information, you can control your tribe, right? I say the people around you,
Yes. So,
are also instrumental in your wellness, in your health journey.
yeah.
So we have to make sure that that tribe is,
Right.
tight, and making sure that they are people who are pouring into us and feeding good seeds,
Right. And
so
not
we
causing
can,
stress, you
what'd
know,
you say?
not causing stress, stress.
Absolutely,
I
yeah, not
breast
killing
cancer was
the
caused by
seeds.
stress, but the stress, we got to get, to me, stress is a cancer. Stress is
Mhm,
fibroid. It's got to go.
mhm,
Right.
mhm. Oh, there's a huge correlation with, you went out a little bit. Did you say the correlation between stress and
Stress, yeah,
fibroid?
stress and fibroid stress. Yeah, because stress,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
huge.
yeah, yeah. I know. I said they got to go. They're all cancers and fibroids. Stress is a cancer and a fibroid. It's got to go.
Oh, right, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to learn how to control our stress. Self-care can't just be like a trendy phrase.
Right.
We
Gotta-
really have to figure out ways to really invoke it in our lives
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah. Yep. 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 So
Yeah.
this has been such a great conversation. I'm
It
sorry.
has.
We got to do it again with Mo when Mo's here, and you bring a
Yeah.
doc next time. Bring a gynae.
Oh, I have so many.
Bring
Like,
a gynae, and we'll talk
I
about
could
it.
have probably called one while we were
Oh,
on.
we're on, right? Tell him to come on with us. We'll do
Yeah.
that next time, and
So many in our community.
yeah, and let's do this again and have this conversation more often. July is Fibroid Month, right?
Yes,
And
Fibroid Awareness Month, and that's because of our organization. We wrote legislation and got it
yep,
passed,
you go,
declaring
girl.
July as Fibroid Awareness Month. So yeah, this is our time to shine and continue to show people why this conversation is valuable and our stories matter.
Great, and I put your website in the comments so people can find you
Awesome.
and look for you and what you're doing, and we'll be watching what you're doing in DC. I'll post about your event,
Thank you so much.
and you know, thank you for joining us. I
Aw,
wish you
thank
well.
you.
Call me when you're in DC. Like, you're gonna be here all weekend, right?
Yes.
I may come, find you at the Eaton and
Oh,
give,
would love to
give you a
see
hug.
you. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and
Ricky, our hugs are always so good.
I know, I know, and everybody look out for this information that Tanika's sharing. It's vital, and I know if it's not affecting you, it's somebody
Absolutely.
and get the solutions, get the care that you need, and we got to keep pushing, pushing, pushing every
And
day.
we will continue to push, push, push.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ricky.
Thank you so much. Safe travels to DC.
Thank you. See you.
Sweet love. And we'll plan another one soon. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
sounds good.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Hope this was relatable, reliable, and real. Thank you to our platform, blackdoctor.org. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for our community. And we'll see you next week. Blessings. Bye.